Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome back to the Anime Talk, the show where sometimes I really don't feel like doing this. Oh god. Actually, realistically, when I was first doing the recordings of this, I was joking about that. Right now, I'm not joking about that only for the sheer fact that I've done this like 3 times, and each time I've recorded like maybe more than 10 minutes of footage and had to scrap all of it for one reason or another. In the case of the last one, it's because my mic was unplugged, and thus, even though I can hear my voice onto the system, it was recording from another mic, which was far away from the room. So you hear me talking from what sounds like a mile away. Blah. I'm not even gonna get into it. Anyways, though, folks, I hope you are having a great day. Anyways, I want to talk about being half invested into anime or even manga for that matter or anything like that. And I got this idea from Rose, Simply Rose's channel. Definitely go check her out. She started an anime rant series, which I really like. I'm only 2 episodes in, I think, so far into watching it. If she had more up since this recording of this, but I'll figure that most likely I'll like all the rest of them when she comes out with them. But I definitely want to go promote her channel because I know some of my subscribers are new to my channel alone, so definitely go check her out. She has already almost 2,000 subscribers. She doesn't need a small channel like me promoting her channel, but I still want to do that nonetheless because even if you can get her 1 or 2 more subscribers, hey, that's just 1 or 2 more, right? Anyways, though, let's talk about what it is to be half invested into anime. First, let's look at the wording half invested. What does that fully mean? Well, in the sense of like work ethics or maybe school or whatever, say you're given a project or something to do for work or whatever, so the project works perfectly for both, it matters. You're given a project and you're said you have a week to do it and you really are super gung-ho about it at first. You're like, oh man, I can't wait to get this project done, I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be great. Halfway through it, you're like, wow, this project's not done yet, oh my god. And then when you get even closer to that, it's like, I made a mistake in section A, screw it, I'll leave it like that, it's not a big deal. That is becoming half invested into something. It happens because you start getting this kind of like burnout of you doing anything, and you're like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't feel like doing it, and it happens, folks. Don't feel bad. It happens to all of us, And if you're saying, oh, it doesn't happen to me, I'm always 110%. You're a liar. There are days where you wake up and you feel like not even getting out of bed. That's being half invested into being awake. That it happens. That's simple. Physics of how humans work. But in anime, let's talk about actually that. In anime or manga, being half invested means you start losing this kind of, I want to say, drive to watch something or the ability to actually proceed with watching something and reading something. Now, a lot of times with long-running shonen series, especially like One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, etc., or with stuff like Case Closed, for that example, those start encroaching beyond this, several hundred episode mark. And when that happens, there's this thing inside of us that you start feeling this kind of like, oh man, how many episodes left do I have to do? Oh my god, what? How many more episodes are left in the series? Wow, the series goes on forever. Now I know a lot of One Piece fans are probably going right away. Oh, listen, I love every episode of One Piece. I'm not saying that One Piece ever has any episodes that are weak or anything like that. I'm just saying that any long-running series, though, you do hit that moment, whether you realize it or not, in your head at one point or another. You might love a series. I'm not saying that any of those shows are bad. I'm just saying that you will hit this kind of moment of just kind of like, I don't really like this arc too much, or I really don't like this whole show right now at this moment. And then also you start watching another great season of it or great arc, and you're like, wow, this arc is amazing. This is the best thing ever. Oh, this is so good. It happens. You know, one thing though is that here's the difference between someone being invested into a series and not being invested into it, or being half invested into it, for that matter. When you're fully invested into a series, you could, regurgitate a lot of information from it. So you'd be like, what happened on this arc? You might not get everything 100% right because unless you're one of those people that have a photographic memory, you're not going to get everything always on 100% right. But you might go, well, I remember this happening and this happening. I remember this being on and this working and like that, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's people that are half invested in a series where they go, I don't remember what happened in the arc. I remember what happened next arc because it was really good, but last arc I'm not really, I don't remember what happened in it. Well, here's the thing that you have to kind of backpedal and ask yourself question wise. Number one, were you not fully invested into that series because you felt like, oh, that arc wasn't that great, or is it because you lost yourself at that point because maybe you just kind of burnt out of that series for a little while? Because hey, listen, guys and girls, no matter what, any series, good or bad, you start hitting this burnout moment of it when you watch a lot of episodes, and almost what happens when you binge watch anime, which is why I'm not a huge fan of binge watching anything. You know, you start having episodes kind of like run together almost like a blender, and after like maybe episode 6 of binging an anime series, you might go, I feel like they've done this before a whole bunch of times. You have to realize there's a reason why TV series and anime and everything come out in a week process. What it actually allows you to do is it lets you watch the episode, take a week to gather your thoughts and your emotions on it, and the anticipation builds up for the second episode or third episode or fourth or whatever as the weeks go by. When you binge watch anything, and this is something I tell everyone, and I want you to fully understand this, but everyone just I'm talking to right now. When you binge watch a show, you start with whether you realize it or not, you start losing interest in it, becoming half invested into that series. I don't care how great the series is. You could have Clannad, for example. I love Clannad. I think Clannad is one of the best anime of all time. It's one of my top favorites of all time. And I will always say that watching all of those episodes in one shot kind of takes this toll on you. There's a reason why movies, for example, are never past like 3 hours, because the human mind cannot process information that long, that correctly. It's like anything else. Like if you read a dictionary, for example, you can't read 100 pages of dictionary and proceed with knowing every single word on the dictionary, because honestly, you probably started skimming over a word. You're like, I know that word already. I know that word. Don't care about that word. You realize it or not, you start skipping things, and it's the same thing with anime or manga, for example. You start kind of missing little details and little notes here and there. That's why with certain shows, if I'm like really disliking the show, I will rewatch certain episodes, or I'll rewatch the series from the beginning before I do a review. This way, I can actually say, you know what, I wasn't crazy, I just didn't like the show because it wasn't good. But there's a lot of times where if you don't do that, you will say a show is garbage without even giving it a chance, because you just felt like you just watched the whole series in one shot and you just lost the investment in it. And that does happen. It's not unheard of. With back to like Case Closed, for example, I had a lot of people in my comments tell me this, and it really kind of irked me a little bit. They went, episodes 300 to 500 are all filler. You don't need to watch those. Episodes like 501 to 650 are actual story elements. So you can skip the last 200 episodes. That's fine. I'm like, that isn't being invested into a series. That's being half invested into a series. I don't care how you want to word it or how you want to put it. One thing about my MAL, I know people say, how do you watch? Did you really watch all that series? Like, you have 600 something anime watched on your MAL. You can go on every single one of my MAL, but even long running series that go past 200 episodes or whatever, I don't really watch a lot that go past 200, but I do have a few. But every one of those shows, I watched every single episode. And I'll tell you right now, what I did was I didn't watch them per se every single episode in one day. I usually, for me, what I consider binge watching, and I'm doing air quotes so you can't see that, but what I consider binge watching is watching 3 to 4 episodes a day of something, maybe like a 12 episode series, because I feel like you can process that much information. You can process an hour or two information correctly before you go, I'm starting to kind of miss things here and there, or I really am not investing in yourself. You start looking at your phone, you start doing other work, you start doing like computer stuff, and are you really paying attention to it, or are you just kind of just half-assing it? Being half invested, and this is something Rose mentioned in her channel, is something that it irks anyone. It irks yourself when you realize that you weren't really fully invested into a series, because then if you're one of those people that review it like I do, for example, you aren't giving a fair review. It's like I can't say this is a fair review of something if I didn't fully invest myself into a show, because that means you missed details. You might have missed this element or this element. It might be small to you, but it might have been something that maybe opened your mind to some little aspect of something. You might not have understood something because you missed that little sequence, and you're like, well, I didn't know that even happened. What did that happen? That's why with stuff like, One Piece, Case Closed, Naruto, stuff like that, I always tell people, maybe don't try to binge to catch up with it. I know One Piece fans always want to binge to catch up with the show, because a lot of times you fall behind, really far behind, and you want to keep up with the anime community and the One Piece community. But I always say, take a step back, relax, watch a few episodes a day. That's perfectly fine. You don't need to watch 50 episodes one day to catch up with something. I think that's ridiculous. You don't realistically should not ever spend 10 hours just watching a screen, because you're not fully investing yourself. You might be going, oh, I love the show so much though. I'm staring at it. Your mind is wandering off, whether you think of it or not. Your mind starts going into this kind of la-la land where it's like, what? Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, that happened. Yeah, man, that was so great. It happens, folks, and it's something that you could avoid. Just take your time. Stop binging series. I think one of the biggest things about half investing into a series and being half invested into anything, manga, anime, video games, whatever you want to name it, work, is that people like excel to make sure that they do everything in one shot. Sometimes space it apart. You know, the best papers, the best anime, the best stories, the best anything were not made in one day. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? That's the whole expression for that. The reason for that expression existing is because honestly, it's true. Time is what makes doing anything worthwhile. You sometimes need to chill out, relax, take your time with the series. And I feel that if you hate a show, it's because you watched it too fast or you maybe not gave it a shot. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time. Sometimes shows, even if you do give them like an episode a day and you're caught up with it like bi-weekly, so it's like My Yoga, for example, or Big Order. Um, those are shows that no matter what, they're terrible because they're just bad, and that does happen. That doesn't mean you're half invested. It just means they're bad shows. But that's the thing about them. They're bad shows because you understood fully what was going on, but it just wasn't good. You processed it, but it wasn't good information to be processed. So what I'm saying, folks, is that stop being so half invested into stuff. I think one thing you need to really do is realize that if you're one of those people that find every series kind of similar to one another, it might be because you're watching too much of one thing. What I always tell people and advise people new to anime is to switch up genres. You know, go from romance, go to supernatural, go to horror, go back to romance. You know, switch it up, because what it lets you do is it lets your mind kind of wander into different realms without getting complacent or jaded to a series, because it's very easy to get jaded to a romance series when you watch like 10 in a row. You start going, oh, I've seen this before happen, because you've seen 10 episodes in a row of this happening before. Of course you're becoming jaded to it, and it feels cliche because it is the same thing you're watching over and over again. That's why different genres exist after all. Anyways, I'm not going to keep you guys and girls any longer. I think I'm done with this. As always, guys, I want you guys to subscribe, share the video. I want you to leave in your thoughts below in the comments about how you feel about being half invested into a series. Also, feel free to talk about how you feel about binging a show. I was actually going to do an anime talk about it. I'm not 100% sure if I will do one. But I want you guys to tell me, do you like binging? Do you not like binging? Do you do it without realizing it? Whatever. Definitely, like I said, go check out Simply Rose's channel. You know, she's got some great videos, of course. She has that new series, that Anime Rant series up, which is really awesome so far. And as always, guys and girls, have a great week. I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.